Good morning. This is Simon with ToughTrader.com and Trading Perform Coaching. Quick legal disclaimer: past performance is not indicative of future results. This is for educational purposes only. Trading derivatives has substantial risk. You can lose all your capital. Please have a trade plan, a risk plan in your trading. Know where your cutoff line is for trading on a regular basis. Okay. Losing money happens in trading, but it should not be happening over and over and over again. It should be some losses and good gains overall. So let's get into what we need to do for the day and how the overnight works. So first of all, Asia flat out sucked last night. That's all there was to it. It was slow and long and painful. I'll show you where our entry was, and it was profitable. But boy, was it painfully profitable. I mean, it was just pulling teeth. So our entry was at 28.28 down to 28.26 and a quarter. So I think I was working 27 and three quarters. It took forever after the Asian Open. This link right in here. My first entry was 28.27 and three quarters, followed by 28.26 and three quarters, and my stop was right below this biggest delta, which was 28.26. I want to say it was either 28.2675 or 28.2650. I forget which one I was using, but it was excuse me, I stand corrected. It was 28.2575 is what the stop was. Okay, so my entries were on this bar specifically was 28.2775, and then I got filled back over here at 26.75, and my stop was 28.2575. And as you can see, I came within a tick of getting filled, and I scaled here. I finally scaled. Let's see, I scaled into this, and I reloaded again at 28.2675. Scaled another point. I eventually brought my cost all the way down to 28.2575, and I stopped that last piece at the last trailer at 28.2675. So I ended up making about a point and three quarters between my entries and scales, and that was on full size. I just couldn't get it to lift into the 29, which was my target. It's an unusual night. As you can see, the upside target, so the first target was VWAP at 28.29, followed by 28.35. I forgot on non-farm payrolls, Asia can be painfully slow. Normally, we probably would have achieved this into London Open. Instead, you can see we came and made one more swing low. And what they were doing, or what we were trying to do, is, if you look over here, we were just working the bottom of that upward channel, which has been regained, by the way. I don't know why this is in the way. There we go. This upper channel has been obviously regained. Once again, we're above the 24-hour VWAP here, and I'd say the channel's intact. It dipped just below, but clearly buyers are in overall control coming into the day, right? This is an important concept, okay? There's two things that you need to look at to start the day. There's two areas that are very, very important if you're going to be bearish, which I'm not, okay? First of all, we need an impulse move below 28.2475 to get any rotation lower, okay? You can see that this somewhere between that 28.2750 and that 28.2475, a backside test of that plus VWAP is probably going to find responsive buyers first time in. Just how it goes. We'll mark it off to see how they handle it when they get there. That's a likely. Everyone can draw that chart, right? There's no special skill set in that, and there's likelihood to be buyers there. If we slice through, this becomes clear resistance. You can see 1, 2, 3 touches. That area will become resistance if and when we slice through. And the clear target down, at least for me, is this down into this next cradle, which would be somewhere between 28.15 and 28.12 is the next response area, right? So, but I'm not looking or considering being bearish. So the first thing I want to know when I come into a trading day is, what are my key areas where I know I either don't want to be aggressively short or I don't want to be aggressively long? And that question is relatively easy to answer almost every day, because what you can use for that gauge is your value area high and your value area low. Okay, so remember, it's non-farm payrolls. It can bring out OTF, but it's the middle of summer too. So not sure that we'll have much of anything more than a balanced day today. Okay, so the first thing is when I look at this, right, I'm going to come up here and say, okay, that was value area high and a poor high. We're trading right there at 28.30.75. It's 28.29.50. So the first thing I'm going to write down in my notes, if I consolidate above this area for the first hour, 45 minutes, shorts off, right? Unless I get a big extension up and I show clear exhaustion via the algo, deltas, price action, but something's going to have to scream out to me, right? Trading is not that hard. It's not as hard as we make it, right? The first question you should be asking, I feel like this thing's pointed up, so I fix that. The first thing you should be asking when you're trading is, what is the market trying to do? Look at yesterday. This was the last, so follow me. This is the last untested value area low. This was the prior day's value area low. Once we, okay, so this was a maybe, not always, but this was clear. Once you're in 28.0775, the odds that and then the next piece was, once we swept this biggest delta, if we were going to be weak, we would have never made it past 28.12, 28.14. Once we made it past 28.12, 28.14, and I promise you, people shorted that area. You can see it in the price action. See how they rejected 1, 2, 3 times. They tried to push it down and got short squeezed. People are trapped. You have an hour and a half worth of trap going right there. There's going to be responsive buyers in that 28.13 to 28.11 area because people shorted there, and they are praying to get back there to cover. So that's a key area for me today. There's also a low volume node right underneath that 28.13 in the volume profile. There's another one right behind it at 28.10. This is a critical area for today. I'd write that down. So even if we get in and underneath, notice that also puts you right underneath today's value area low, which is sitting at, or right above, excuse me, today's value area low, which is 28.0875. So I want to write down on my notes, 28.0875, getting below and holding below, which is quite a task from where we're trading right now, but getting below and holding below is the major key to getting any big extension to the downside. You don't get below 28.0875, there's no big rollover. Yes, I realize 28.30 to 28.08 is a nice trade. Nonetheless, you got to get underneath there. Next, in your keys of figuring out whether we're long or short, this is the old value area high, 28.1850. There's a support level there, right? Expect, here, let me fix this. See that right there? There's a hole in the profile. I already have it highlighted on the charts that I posted to members. That's the old value area high. Expect a response out of 28.19 to 28.17 back to the upside, okay? The only way we get to that 28.19, 28.17 is getting below the volume points of control, which is 28.27 to 28.25. And yes, expect responsive buyers there. That's what held us all overnight last night. And it was just a grind through here. It was unfortunate we didn't respond as sharply. I forgot next non-farm payrolls, that Thursday night's an off night. And then consolidating above 28.29. What do we? So those are the major areas below. Let me say it again: 27.25, 19.17, and then 13.10, 08, 07, and then you have levels below. But if we start consolidating underneath 08, 07, remember there's been tons of responsive buyers in this whole area down here. So expect this to be challenged. It would also be a 20-point roll down from 28.31 to 28.10 area. I would expect the response to come in this area if we get that close, right? So I went over all those areas, and the whole reason for that is now I have a mental framework for what I'm looking for, right? I'm not looking to short. I don't think this is a bear market. It's not a bear market, okay? And we're just balancing and building energy for a move here, right? So the market's going to choose one or two things. Inside this blue area, which ranges from 28.29 to 28.08, expect it to be choppy. It's not always. Sometimes it's directional like yesterday. But usually when we're inside these blue areas, which is the prior day value area, you don't expect a directional move. You expect it to have a lot of back and forth in that area. Okay, so when I look to the left, there's a hole right here. Lo and behold, that's the anomaly in the hole, and that's Globex high. Let me make sure I have that correct. Post-Fed, 28.36. We want one tick beyond, 2 ticks beyond it. But that hole, that was the upside target, extended upside target for last night. The 27.25 area was the general support area. And what we ended up doing, took a very long time to do it, but we did climb from 27 up to 35. And the hole's been filled. And when you look at this profile to the left, you can argue that hole being filled repaired the chart. hypothetically, you could push that argument all the way back here to 28.3850, but that was the worst part of the chart upstairs that needed to be repaired, and you could argue that it's been repaired at this point. So what I'm going to be looking for is what the price action looks like between 35.75 and 33.75 and this 29.50. I'm going to probably attempt to look for long setups in this area and see if we can't push through that 35, because if we tack on another 20 points, and it's possible because look, this is all building energy. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 days of building energy over a wide range. This range is getting wider because this is well auctioned and there's not a lot of need to defend anything inside of here. I want to say that again and give you an example of that. When you look back, see how this area gets well auctioned through here, and we build all this energy and all of this gets well auctioned. See when we gap up right here, and so imagine today was actually the 24th is the easiest way to do this. Value area high, value area low, right? I know I need to get below that value area and below this point of control in order to move lower. So if you came in bearish on this day, the first thing I'd say to you is, well, I want to be below 28.08. Now look how the day developed, right? There was resistance right over here, just like that 35, right? And in this particular case, we gapped up. So maybe it's not the best example, but it still serves. You can see how we gapped up. We came in. That 35 was acted as support between this and that value area. So this was an odd day because we gapped and went, and then we rolled down. What was off to the left? Was that a new high? Nope. That was back in March. I'm not sure why we got that profile that ended up working like that, but look how, see how this day ended up working out. This was actually tough because we did consolidate over the first hour. It kind of ruins my point. But the whole point was, in order to get a big extension to the, so this is a great example. This was a big gap away in this particular case, and we got underneath the first 30-minute bar. And once we got underneath that first 30-minute bar, notice this bar, so we would have reversed it is what we would have said. This bar ends the one timing to the upside that occurred here, here, and here, right? One time ends, 50, 60 back, roll to the downside, and now your target was Dalton's gap fill. I know everyone's looking at the settle price, but I really think Dalton's gap fill was the result and the response back up, right? Let me see if I can find an example where we just broke out of a base and went. That would be a better example. Okay, so this is kind of sort of what we had yesterday, right? And look how this day, developed. Same thing. See if you'd been bearish here and said, well, this was just a short squeeze rally. See how we opened up and we came down and we never, I'm trying to give a good example so we have a reference point. See how we never cross underneath value area low down there? And see how that value area low gets defended over here on the 19th? If you don't, that value area low should get defended, and that value area high should get defended the first time through. So in this particular case, we opened up. We couldn't make it down to value area low. Look at the price action inside of this blue area. See how it's just up and down, chopping sideways, and buyers are in overall control. So eventually they push down, fail to get to value area low, and we come up and test value area high. Let me see if I have one more example of this where you would have come off a base. There's a good example right there on 7.6. Let's see how we opened. Okay, perfect. Value area high, value area low. Even if you had been bearish in this consolidation, see how the first half hour and the first hour, see how we just closed straight up? Instead of betting that we're going to fail, right? Look how it went right to the next target up above, okay? And we just grind straight up. And then this is why you don't want to short a trend day up, because the odds of you getting that roll down are zero. What you want to try and do is find a way to get the carry to this upside and guessing where it's going to be short. If I were going to short, it would be late in the afternoon, like after 1 o'clock. But I'm probably not going to waste my energy trying to get that done. So for today, now you have reference points and dates you can go look at. We're trading at 28.30, consolidating above 28.2975 for an hour. I'm going to assume a push to at least this area. That's an old area. So first 35, 36, right? Then 38, 50, 40. This is questionable because it's been auctioned over, but I'm going to assume there's trapped buyers there that'll offer back out. And then if you look above, the swing high is next. And that swing high will put us at 20 up. It's totally achievable, that 28.50. And then if we look back to the left, which was March, let's see if I can get rid of this. There we go. Okay. If I look back to the left, which was March, we have, I guess we're already past it. Hold on a sec. 2830. Are we past March already? Wow. Okay. So much for that. Hold on one second. And that's as far back as I have this chart going right now. So we are, the resistances aren't going to be on another chart. I'll pull it up in a second and go back there. But the point is 2850 to 2855. Even 2860 is doable today. And I'm going to assume that the buyers are in control. What changes my mind on that, right? So I think I made a pretty clear argument why I think it could go up. Why could it go down easily? Okay, so on the downside, what has to happen is you have to get past this hole, the 2819 to 2816. You get past that hole, the 2819 to 2816. See how this whole area is relatively flat? Yes, I understand there's an indentation here, and there's value area low. Below 2816, 2819, there's another little hole right there, 2813, 2812. But net, underneath that hole, it should be relatively easy to get underneath 2808. I'd want to see an impulse move underneath 2808, and then I'd start working rotations back up for shorts. And then what am I going to use as my guide? So now I've got the map of the terrain of what it's looking like, right? So what am I going to use as my guide intraday to figure out my trade? I'm going to switch over to the algo, right? And just like yesterday, first thing I wanted to do is I wanted to highlight my big deltas. So remember yesterday morning, we still have them highlighted, right? We're watching. This is 8:59. Biggest delta of the day goes off right there. See the star underneath it, right? And I said, this is the bar I want to get a backside test of, right, for continuation higher. We established above. See how we do a quick backside test and continuation? That's a normal trade. Again, your stop needs to go. You really want it just 2 or 3 ticks underneath this bar and reload if it holds, right? In other words, take it twice, but you don't have to have a 4-point stop on that bar, okay? Then come back. Again, it served 2 purposes. It both got a momentum trigger, and it was the largest delta of the day. You see we came back on the backside of that. See how we never close underneath that bar? It's pretty easy peasy. You're targeting the top of that bar. You're stopping 2 to 4 ticks underneath. You don't need more than that. This is a 1.5 range bar, so that's 2.5 points of stop. That's a reasonable stop. And look what you get in exchange for doing that is a push to the upside of 20 some odd points. Next, by the way, Ron nailed that. Tip of the hat to you, Ron. You had that just zeroed in and you killed it. So, and we got the long, but I didn't get it like Ron did. Ron got it for 10 points. Okay. Next, on top, see how this becomes resistance over here? This is your last delta momentum push to the downside right here. We just opened, by the way, and I'm not worried about trading the first 30 minutes. I'll just let it go. Okay. See that right there? See how it became resistance? See how it just didn't ship through here? It took 1, 2, 3, 4 bars, and it took from the time we first tagged it at 10:14 until we finally broke out at 10:30. It took 15 minutes of slowing down through this area. That worked as a target up and as resistance. Once we got above, right, notice that we break with another big delta. These 2 bars now become support. Look on the backside test, and then the continuation. And then as we're pushing up in the morning, I heard people starting to talk about shorting up here at 22, 23 area. Look at our deltas, right? If you don't get underneath these 2 guys, right, again, that's where that support is today, 1917, right? It's sitting right there. I have it marked off on the chart. You don't get underneath these 2 guys. This is the biggest delta push. Actually, this one and this one, so I stand corrected. That's the biggest delta push in the morning. It's easy. You don't get underneath that delta push. That's a 6,000 delta. You don't get underneath that, there's nothing to do. And I will be testing that delta first time in. I need to make an adjustment because I don't think I have that marked off. And then you'll see overnight, at the end of the day, we had a big delta. I traded against it in Asia. It kind of sucked because we couldn't get the extension up. That was my extended upside target. VWAP was my first target. I just couldn't get him to lift at 2 points. So shoulder shrug on that. And then it eventually went to target, and now here we are at the open for the day. You don't have to work that hard to make your trades work. You really, really, truly, truly don't. Okay? The trades will work if you let them come to us and you relax and you're asking the same questions. Where are the big deltas? Where are the momentum pushes? Where are we extended up and down 20 points? And then is it trend day up? And then is the deltas, cumulative deltas above 20K, right? Throw away the shorts. The inverse is not true. Just realize we're in trend territory on the downside, but you get responses back up off the lows. You can get straight up and close at the high like we did yesterday, and you can lose a lot of money shorting that. And not to mention, you destroy your own psychology by trying to fight the market. When the market says, hey, I want to go up, let it go up. Market saying, I want to go up. I had a great opportunity to break it down yesterday. I was probably could be described as bearish coming in the morning. But once I saw we were traveling and we printed those deltas and couldn't get below, I just left it alone. And I would advise the same for y'all. It's stressful, very, very stressful to sit there and fight and fight and fight your trade locations, and it can cost you an enormous amount of money. So my plan for today, I have a new algo. I'll be calling out the trades as I execute them. They're in addition to the current algo. I'll show you. It will be confusing. It will not be clear at first. It's just going to take some practice in the rim. But basically, this will be when it fires off a blue bar for the first time after negative space, it's basically a long. When it fires off a red bar for the first time, it's basically a short. And you still have to be able to discern location. So obviously, and this won't, it's a momentum indicator, so it will not fire longs off the low. It won't fire shorts off the high. It just won't. It fires continuation moves. So, and you've got to be careful, like during news events, it misfires. Okay, so it fired a short right at the low. And then the inverse is true when it flips, but we haven't added that edge yet. John, by the way, I owe you a phone call. And tip of the hat, this is much of this goes to John's credit on this. But you can see here where, so you got to know when to ignore the shorts, right? Which brings us back to the TPO of which way we're leaning. So, and then the exit for it, by the way, are these little white bars that print down here at the bottom. So hypothetically, let's say I shorted here, the very next bar, which would be less than a 1 point stop in this particular case, triggered a short. I mean, a stop in this particular case. So, but when they line up beautifully, here, I'll show you. Like yesterday. So this was the first trigger right here. And it didn't trigger a sell indication until right there at 929. It basically got you long at 2800 and kept you long all the way up until 2809. And then it refired long at 2808 and didn't target you out until 2816. It's really a great piece of work. And then it refired again. And then at the end of the day, this is when people were talking to me about shorting. People started mentioning shorting up here, and I was getting this algo triggering long. So it does fail on occasion, like it triggered long and rolled all the way down. Over here, when the algos get super active, meaning in a news environment, it can hurt you. I won't take more than a 2 point stop on this trade. That's my max stop. So this particular trade would get stopped, but most of them work most of the entries work pretty efficiently, and it comes down to managing entries and exits. And then that's it, guys. Let's see what the market has to offer. Again, I'm ignoring this short indication because we're right at the top. It's actually already fired. It fired a short and it fired a close. And again, when we're in a slight news environment, that's where it has the most difficulty. When we're not in a news environment, away from news times, it does just fine. So I'm not interested in looking for shorts this morning. I'm interested in looking for longs. And what I'm going to do is move I'm going to move this to the screen that was on, and hopefully I will have a better view of this. I missed my entries yesterday because I was busy watching the other algo. So hopefully I do a better job of tagging that today between this and that, and looking for our key location. So we've opened up. We're at 28.29. Everyone should be able to have a TPO in front of them. And right now that TPO says 28.2975 is value area high. And as long as we're above or near that, my assumption is going to be we are going to push out and to the upside. What would change my mind? Getting below those holes in the profile that have already been highlighted on the chart. And that's my 2 cents. Let me see if anyone has any questions. So anyway, that's my 2 cents. We'll see if anything fires off. You have to know when not to take the algos, obviously. Delta's positive. We're above the 24-hour VWAP. We're above 28.2975. I did not update my charts from yesterday on TradeStation. I apologize. I'm trying to get these algos completed. And at any rate, let's look at NQ from the levels with yesterday. That's NQ. We've opened up within the range. This is still valid on top. This is still valid below, actually. And let's reset this. There's ES, and you can see it's open auction. We've got to get above the, we got to hold above the 29.75. We're just coming back for some to retest this 28 to 26 area, and I'm going to assume that's going to hold. I'm looking for the biggest delta to fire and set me up with a trade. Right now, it's just open auction chop. We could reverse and do a mirror image of what we did yesterday, but I'm going to have to see some evidence of that first before I get aggressive on the short side. So anyways, that's my 2 cents. And by the way, just because the bar is there, the bar has to print on this to trigger a short for me. I'll call it out when I see it, and I'll be using 2-point stops. No more than that. That is it. So my guess is we push out and back and retest that 28.35 if I had to guess, because, well, hell, why not? Right? They just haven't been able to push ES down. So I'm looking to be a responsive buyer today. Anyway, for those of you on YouTube, thanks for joining. If you'd like to visit the room, send us an email to tradertough@gmail.com. I'm out all next week for the first vacation in a long time. I really appreciate y'all being with us. Money management is the key to winning and knowing what your trade setup is. So even in Asia, when we were having difficulty, by the time we got everything said and done, the worst we were going to lose last night was a point. That was actually, I'll take it back. The worst you could have lost would have been 2 points, but no one should have had a loss last night, either break even or profitable across the board. And that's where the risk management comes in, and strategically placing your limit orders and not over trading that Asian session can be very profitable. The down, it just becomes pretty technical environment, and it's pretty straightforward making money there. The frustration just comes in how long you have to sit there and wait to get the move some nights. But most of the time, it's healthier than it was last night. So again, we're dancing on that 28.2950, and I'm looking for a big delta to print. So see this right here? See how it printed and then immediately printed a white bar? That's a close. You've got to know where you are on that chart. So you've got to know where you are on the chart overall to go, well, do I have any chance of making a short? Like, I don't want to short, right? Even if the algo tells me, hey, it's short, right? I don't want to short into my VWAP and my TPO point of control. I want to short underneath it, if anything, but not above it. I think we're going to push up to 34.35 this morning, right? So if I'm looking for anything, I'm looking for a long trigger in this area. I'd rather take a stop on a long trigger than a stop on a short up here, knowing that I have support directly underneath me. So I hope that makes sense. And then you can see this cluster of stars since 7:30, right? They are duking it out. This tells you that trying to make big momentum pushes both ways. Whichever side we impulse move off of this increases the odds that we'll get a continuation in that direction. Those stars tell me that they're trying to make momentum pushes, and it's just a matter of waiting for that to resolve itself. And then you want the backside test or the first pull down to grab in the direction of that trade. So that means 33.35 should serve as resistance, right? But above prior day's high, above value area high. Shorting is only for the most aggressive. And since I don't feel like having a stressful day, I'll just kind of lay back on those areas. I don't have to short them. I want to get underneath my biggest delta wherever that prints for the day. I want to get underneath that biggest delta for the day. So stay safe. Have a great weekend, and we'll see everybody in about a week. Thank you, guys.